Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to Synchronicity University. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah, and this is your moment of synchronicity. This video, this lesson looks at Saturn in the sign of Aquarius in a natal chart, or Saturn in the 11th house in a natal chart, or Saturn transiting through the 11th house in a natal chart. So we'll take it one at a time. If you have Saturn in the sign of Aquarius, but not in the 11th house, you will relate to some of the 11th house stuff I talk about, but I would encourage you to watch the video that has to do with where Saturn is exactly in your chart by house in order to more fully understand how it is that that Saturn is being experienced through you. So Saturn in the sign of Aquarius, to me, this is very much the placement of desiring to bring structure to what before was chaotic. And there are many ways that this manifests. So just on an archetypal level, right? If we just remove it from maybe like your everyday experience, maybe this is something you can relate to. I think about something like metaphysics, okay, for example. So this is a field of study that attempts to use mathematical formulas, scientific theories, sometimes philosophical theories, to explain what before was unexplained or was thought to be matters of energy or spirituality or new age thinking or, even supernatural thinking as well. So what it does is it tries to merge what before was separate from science with a science, and thereby creating a whole new field of scientific understanding. That to me is very much what Saturn in Aquarius is about. Saturn is traditionally the ruler of the sign of Aquarius, and in the sign of Aquarius is able to bring forward a more analytical side, a more scientific side, able to sort of grasp complex concepts and to really help to ground what otherwise would be just a bunch of ideas. So it can take lots of different ideas, philosophical, mathematical, and bring a sense of structure to them, make them accessible to the masses. And that's what this energy ultimately is about. If you are a person with Saturn in the sign of Aquarius, in your own way, in your own unique way, you are called to, you feel the need to do this. And so this is going to be that person who, for example, because Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius is sometimes associated with astrology, sometimes it's associated with Gemini, but sometimes it's with Aquarius because where it bridges science and art, or science and intuition, that is very much an Aquarian endeavor. And so this is going to be, if you're an astrologer with an Aquarius Saturn, you are going to be that much more inclined to learn all the mathematical formulas, to really understand the different degrees, right? And how those different degrees speak to each other. So you're going to be approaching the chart in a more methodical way, and you're going to be incorporating elements of mathematics and calculations and different formulas in making judgments and ascertaining and making sort of an understanding of where it is that this person is going or this chart is going. That's going to be the way that you approach an astrology chart. Whereas somebody else who doesn't have this placement, somebody who's got lots of water in their chart, for example, is going to approach the astrological chart much more intuitive perspective. It's going to be looking at it as a form of divination, much more likely than somebody with Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. So they're going to find a certain sense of strength and structure and knowledge in learning all these different formulas in all these different ways. And the same is true for any kind of new age spiritual endeavor for that matter. So these are going to be people who are really interested in reading those books that look at all the theories and complexities around what otherwise would just be a belief, right? That has to do with whether it's like new thought, let's say, new thought, the whole new thought movement. To me, that's very about, on the one hand, yes, there's an element there that's very sort of Sagittarian, that as you believe it, it is. But with Saturn in Aquarius, it becomes like almost like a science, like no, mind is strong. And actually there's this whole theory and scientific understanding of how what you believe and what you think actually does help to shape and shift matter around you. So they'll approach it from that very scientific way. But all of these people in their own way attempt to bring what previously was ephemeral and hard to grasp and rooted in some sort of scientific, practical understanding. Now, wherever it is that your Saturn is an area of life where you want to feel like you have some sort of strong ground to stand on, some kind of justifiable ground to stand on. You want to feel a sense of that you are, going with tradition, going with the established way. Now, how you feel about that ultimately and how you go about that, a lot of that becomes expressed through the aspects that that particular Saturn is making. Having said that, these are going to be people with Saturn in the sign of Aquarius who have that very strong desire to take ultimately what's a little bit out there, in some cases really far out there, and find a way to package it and find a way to understand it that allows them to feel that they're actually working within some kind of a structure or establishment. So regardless of what it is that they are trying to understand more deeply, they're going to go to what's already been done in order to then understand it more deeply and then break past those limitations and come up with their own theories. And that's ultimately what it's about. It's about making that jump to their own experiments and their own theories as well. Now, Aquarius is also a very social sign, okay? And it has to do with sort of the alliances we hold. It has to do with acquaintances, memberships that we may belong to. Aquarius is a sign of things like unions and fellowships, right? Whatever the case may be. And so these are going to be areas of life, even support groups, right? These are going to be spaces that a person with a Saturn in Aquarius is going to feel at different points in time drawn to these areas of life. It's not going to be easy, but it's like they know they have to go there. They know that this is something they have to engage in. They have to involve themselves in other people, interact with other people, if they are going to move their lives towards a greater sense of stability, if they're going to move towards greater self-respect, if they're going to move themselves towards a genuine happiness, they're going to have to let other people in. And that sometimes can be like the hardest thing to actually do, and the hardest thing that they actually even want to do for that matter. Saturn in Aquarius types, Aquarius is a sign that's associated with the New Age. It's associated with inner authority. And so as such, what I have found, as much as Saturn is so much about tradition and what's established, also there can be a real love-hate with the establishment. So on the one hand, these can be people who really want to go their own way and trust themselves and what no one else says matters. So a part of the life journey is to own their own inner rebel, to own that part of them that has its own unique desires and drives and wants to sort of trust itself and, as they say, like proverbially say, follow the beat of its own drum. And yet there is that feeling that, okay, but I've got to root that in something that's already been done. I've got to either figure out a way so that I don't feel like I'm so out there all on my own, or I've got to find a way to actually express this so that it garners me a sense of success, or garners me a success of stability, a sense of moving my life forward towards manifesting something that matters to me. So these are people who ultimately are going to take ideas and utilize people and alliances as part of utilizing these ideas to manifest something that is going to matter to them. People with Saturn in the 11th house. So there are a couple of ways that this manifests. So what I found natally, if you've got Saturn in the 11th house, this tends to play out really strongly in terms of friendships. And what I mean by that is this can speak in a very interesting way to how you approach your friends. And what I found is usually in early life, friendships can feel really difficult. And then after the Saturn return, these tend to be people who really start to form lasting bonds, like bonds that really last and become really meaningful. And they invest the time to make those bonds lasting, strong bonds as well. So as I said, in early life, it can be, Saturn sometimes can just be karma that doesn't always feel very good. And so some of that karma can play out very strongly with the friends in the early part of life, where it just feels like these people are it's hard to connect with people on a level of friendship, and that you're sort of, that there's a little bit of an off. And what I mean by that is where you're going to want to really feel a sense of closeness to other people and to have your friends become your family, but they're letting you down. So in some way you may feel let down by people, or it can be that you are the one who's afraid to really get close, and you're detaching and you're attracting people who are being more demanding, who are asking more of you than you have to give. So it can go either way when you've got Saturn in the sign of, or Saturn in the 11th house. But in some way, friendships can be less than ideal, especially in early life, before you start to take a more adult approach to friendships, and you start to understand that ultimately you're not going to connect with everybody. That's just the reality. We live in a world of diversity. You meet enough people, you'll meet enough people that you don't get along with, and that's part of what makes this experience of life really awesome. So not taking that too much to heart, not taking that too personally, is part and parcel of the journey. The other thing, this part of the sky is associated with love that is received, okay? So love that we receive. And so sometimes with these people, especially in early life, it can be hard, or it can feel challenging to receive or accept love. Now, I know that there's that connection with the 5th house. It says love that's given. 11th house is love that you receive. I actually think also that the 2nd house has to do with receiving as well, like allowing yourself to receive good, knowing that you've put good out and now good can find you, whether it's love or whether it's things, whether it's prosperity. That tends to be the stronger focus with the 2nd house. But in the 11th house, it tends to be more emotional. It tends to be with the people who are there and allowing them to give to you, allowing yourself to receive. So sometimes, not always, but sometimes people who have Saturn in the 11th house can find relationships a little bit challenging, because it has to do with feeling a sense of limitation with the love that you are welcoming into your life. And so again, these tend to be people, what I found, once you have that Saturn return, things can really change a lot, significantly, because that's when you take ownership, you evaluate your life, you get real with yourself, you start to say, okay, yeah, this is what's been, but now I'm ready for real stability. And that can really be the big game changer. That can be the time, once you get past that Saturn return, then you start to welcome in and allow love to come, because you've had that ability to reflect, you've grown up a little bit, now you can really welcome and allow yourself to receive love that is defined by you, and that is a lot more mature and not just based on some sort of an automatic reaction. With the 11th house, there's also a loftiness to this part of the sky, so it has to do with your hopes and your wishes for your life. And so because of that, there tends to be a need for these people at varying points in life to focus on going beyond just about, you know, career and manifesting, but to actually think really big picture, right? The 10th house is legacy. What legacy are you creating and that you hope to leave? It's about renown. But the 11th house takes it further. It's about, what are you doing for humanity? What are you doing for all of us in a bigger way? What is it ultimately that your highest, loftiest wishes are? And this is going to ask you to actually ground that. So have it not just be something that's up in the air, pie in the sky, but to be really honest with yourself about what is the higher aim. Because sometimes we say we want something, but the actual intention, the actual aim is something else. So life is going to ask you to get real with yourself about that. So if you're saying, you know, I want success, I want to be, let's say, for example, you're a singer, you want to be a famous singer. Well, okay, but what is it that you really want beyond that? What's the highest hope and the highest aim? Well, the highest aim is to be showered by love, because sometimes it's because you don't feel you have it. If you've got Saturn in the 11th, you want to receive it, so you're motivated to receive it. That might be the real motivation. It might not be, right? The real motivation might be so that I can then, you know, make a difference to humanity, so that I can have a justifiable ground to stand on from which I can, you know, share my political ideas. Like, that might be the truth, but it is about being honest with yourself about what is actually happening there. So if you've got Saturn in the 11th house, at some point you are going to have to be honest with yourself about that loftier aim that you might not be looking at. If you have Saturn moving through the 11th house, transiting the 11th house, This pretty much always, I've found, brings an attention to friendship. Your friendships change. Your alliances change. You start to feel like, okay, either you feel like, I got to start spending more time with my friends. I got to make this a priority. You see the benefit of having people on your side in a friendship sense, or being aligned with people in terms of groups or memberships that you hold. So you see the benefit of that, but there might be on your part, whether it's an inertia or whether it's a resistance, something within you. It's like you need to overcome a barrier to do that, but you know it's something that would be good for you to do. But the friendships change under this. What also can happen is that you realize that you are going in a whole other direction. You allow certain friendships to end, okay? Because Saturn can bring endings. It is time after all, and time is finite. So Saturn can bring enough of a change to friendships that friendships will end, where you realize, you know what? No, I've accomplished all this in the 10th house just now. So I know where I'm going. I'm feeling a sense of, myself. Now I'm thinking about my life in a bigger way, and I don't think this person really fits into that. So you're being honest with yourself. You're able to acknowledge that. You're able to own that. And this can be a time also, just on a very immediate level, your friends just need you around more. So it might be that your friends need your help. It might be that your friends need your time. It might be that your friends are asking for more of your attention, whether socially or for like real practical matters as well. But in some way, your friends are asking for greater engagement on your part and asking you to be more present than you have before as well. With the 11th house and the sort of loftiness associated with this, the element that has to do with, as I said, receiving love and allowing yourself to receive love. When Saturn moves through this sign, that can be hard to allow. That can feel hard to allow. However, it is by breaking past that barrier, because ultimately Saturn allows you to transform anything through honesty and hard work. So you ask yourself those tough questions. You spend time with people who do feel safe. And that in turn does allow you to do the internal work needed to allow greater and greater love into your life. And that includes love in all its forms, whether it's love from friendship or even romantic love as well. The universe is going to ask you to do the work. This becomes one of those social areas of the sky where you're asked to do the work, to look at yourself, to look at the barriers within you to love, so that you can heal them and bring them down, thereby allowing that much more love to find you. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I love your interactions. Please do keep them coming. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com, the YouTube channel, of course, as well. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Until we connect again, take care. Thank you for watching this lesson as part of Synchronicity University. You can go online at synchronicityuniversity.com or click on your screen if you're on YouTube right now to access even more video lessons, to access horoscopes, interviews with some of the most amazing astrologers in the world, and so much more.